so many of us in the helping space really have a lot of internal struggles over money and earning money and charging our worth.
I'm totally burned out. I've been hustling all my life. I've been conditioned to do things this way. I'm not thriving. I'm not thriving.
All right, well, welcome back to the show. Today, I have got a guest with me who has got some amazing things to share about the topic of prosperity consciousness for wellness coaches. So, if you've tuned into my show before, then you know that I love to talk about money mindset and wealth consciousness. And I really just think that this is such an important topic for all entrepreneurs, but especially for health and wellness coaches, because I know that so many of us in the helping space really have a lot of internal struggles over money and earning money and charging our worth, all those pieces, so many things. So that's why I will continue to come back to this topic, because I do believe that it's so crucial. You know, when you're trying to build a business, you need to be able to examine your belief systems about money and really uncover all of those beliefs that are just going to hold you back. This is definitely something that I personally have had to do a lot of work on over the years, and I will continue to do work on, because honestly, that work is just never done. But today I'm really excited because I have a guest with me who is going to give you her perspective on this topic. And I think that you are absolutely going to love her. Lisa Mase is a nutritionist who has been in private practice for 12 years, and she is passionate about the intersection of traditional nutritional philosophies and modern nutrition science. So Lisa grew up in Italy, living a life that included homesteading, wildcrafting, and cooking from scratch with her extended family, which honestly to me sounds pretty idyllic. And the reason, though, why I wanted to bring her on the show today is because she has learned a lot about how to support herself and her family with a mindset and daily practices that really lead to financial freedom. So we're going to be talking about her signature habit shifting technique, her top abundance practices, and the power of networks, and so many juicy things. So Lisa, welcome to the show. It is such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I'm thrilled.
Awesome. I know that you have got so much good stuff to share with us about the topic in particular of prosperity consciousness and all of the good stuff that you're doing in your business. So I can't wait to get into all of that. Before we do get into that, though, I would just love for you to tell us a bit more about your story. So what led you to becoming a nutritionist, building your business, doing all the things?
Absolutely. And I think, honestly, it really is our story as people that shapes the way we work as entrepreneurs, right? And sometimes we might feel like the field is flooded, and who am I to be a coach when there's so many others out there? And we all need each other because we all relate to different clients in different ways. And that is a huge reason that I started my business, because when I was going through a 10-year battle with chronic intestinal parasites, I didn't really find somebody like me who was willing to be there, to be accountable, to be supportive, to have my back. And as I sort of returned to the foods and the herbs that were so supportive to me growing up in Italy, and realized that those ancestral foods and those traditional foodways were the things that were going to be foundational to my own healing process, I then realized that this is something I'd love to share with others. And this is something I'd love others to feel inspired around. And my own health journey, as well as my experience as an immigrant and coming out of an intact food culture in Italy into one that's more of a mosaic in the United States, were the real main motivators to become a nutritionist and a health coach.
I love that. I love so many of those things. I mean, it just feels like just a natural extension of what you already knew about the world and what it meant to be healthy and living a full life. So I love that that just naturally brought you to actually doing this work. So, fast forward, of course, to today. Like, what are you doing right now exactly? Who do you help? I'd love to know, who you help, what you help them with. Tell me a little bit more about what your business looks like today.
Absolutely. So I'm working one on one with folks and I'm teaching courses online as well. And one on one, I see a lot of folks who have struggled or are struggling with the same things that have been a challenge for me, right? And that is truly the law of attraction. And I find that I have a much more profound empathic connection with folks who are struggling with parasites or who have had Lyme disease, who have struggled with fertility, who have struggled with an autoimmune disorder. These are all things that I've healed in my own system. And I notice that I attract those kinds of clients. And just like I was describing about my 10-year chronic illness, I also attract folks who have been turned away by so many different specialists in the medical field saying, "You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm looking at your labs and basically you're not dying. So go ahead and, go out there and live your life." And people are saying, "But I am dying. I feel terrible and I don't know what's going on." And I love to be sort of the detective helping people piece together all of these things that seem separate but are actually interconnected, right? Because the body is a system and the way that we interact with the world affects how the system works. So I'm working a lot with those kinds of folks. And I'm offering a food as medicine course for people who really want to, take back their health and feel like they have empowerment over their food choices and they don't have to be overwhelmed by the barrage of information that's out there about food. And I'm also working with folks more intimately in what I call healing circles, where people can come together around a topic and say, we're all struggling with fertility. We're all struggling with autoimmune disease. And let's share resources and connect because at the end of the day, I do want to make myself obsolete. And I want everybody to have the knowledge and the tools and the power to heal themselves. And I want us all to remember that we're in it together. And it's community that provides, the strength, the endurance that we need to be on our wellness journey.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I love so many of those principles that you talked about. I mean, that empowerment piece is so crucial. And I mean, because of the situation that you described, that I know is incredibly familiar to many people out there, many, of the people in our audience, and is like, trying to go and get help from the conventional healthcare system and not receiving that help and not really knowing where to go. And so I love that you have set this yourself up to help empower people to find solutions and look for, if you're not getting help in this area, there is help and solutions elsewhere. So let's find those and let's work on those together as a community. I love so many of those pieces. So okay, well, let's talk about prosperity consciousness and financial freedom, because I know that, mindset is, I know that this is something that you actively work on. Tell me, what difference did that make for you when it came to creating financial freedom for yourself? Tell me a bit about that.
I think that mindset is everything ultimately, right? And I think that, all the things that are out there in kind of pop psychology work culture about, work smarter, not more, right? And work less time in a more focused way. That's all real. And the question is how, right? Especially when we're starting a business and feeling like, where are the clients even going to come from? And what does the marketing even look like that's going to be effective? Mindset is everything. And starting from this place of having my top three. So I have my top three goals for the day, my top three goals for the month, and my top three goals for the year. And when I set those goals, I try to kind of envision myself at the end of my day at the end of my month, at the end of my year, how's it going to feel, at the end of 2022 to have accomplished this goal, to take this book that I self published as a gift for all of my clients and have it be taken up by a publisher and have it be on the New York Times bestseller list, right? How's that going to feel? And how does that feeling inform my big three goals for this month and this day? So I really try to go into that future self consciousness and talk to myself from that place, because ultimately our thoughts plus our emotions equal our habits, our behaviors, and we can affect so much just by focusing in that mindset on the future and how we can make that a reality in some small way today.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree. And I love that. And I especially love the idea of, okay, so it's all great to set goals, but what I love is that you said, how do I want to feel? Because it's so easy to get caught up in like the goal, just achieving the goal for the goal's sake, right? Like just so that we can tick that box, say that we did that thing, but it's really like, what's the why underneath that? Like, why is it important? And how do I actually want to feel when I have achieved that? And really, because it's the feeling that we're all in pursuit of, whether we realize it or not. And so I think it's so important, like you just said, to actually realize it, be conscious about it, consciously create it. So I love that. Now, I'm curious, what made you start to look at your own, start to work on your mindset? Was there a shift that happened, or is this something that you have always has always been important to you?
So, a couple different things. One thing is that I'm a hustler and I come from a family of hustlers. It's like, do, just get it done all day long. Even my grandmother with homesteading, it was like, you got to wake up at 4 o'clock because that's when the mushrooms wake up. And if you want to get the best mushrooms in the forest, you have to go out at 4. And, my 18 cousins and I would all be like, you got to be kidding me. But we'd get up at 4 and go get the mushrooms. And really, it was because it was fall and she had so many different harvesting projects she wanted to accomplish before winter came that we needed to maximize our day. And I had a moment of realizing I'm totally burned out. I've been hustling all my life. I've been conditioned to do things this way. And I'm not thriving. I'm not thriving. And the other piece of that shift in mindset is that through my chronic parasitic illness, I became a meditator. And the first time I went on meditation retreat, I had a 75% reduction in my symptoms. And, I had irritable bowel syndrome. I had disordered eating. I had anxiety and depression. Parasites prey on the nervous system, brain fog, joint pain. I mean, you name it. I had it going on. And I came home from these 10 days and my mind was totally, literally blown open. And I was not in pain. And I realized what a huge part of my symptoms were driven by my mind. And I had this realization, okay, if I choose not to hustle and if I choose to generate different kinds of thoughts, not illness generating thoughts and thoughts focused on what's happening, but thoughts about the way that things could be, I can actually manifest that reality. So that was a really powerful turning point for me. And I realized, first and foremost, I can apply this to my healing process. And then, second of all, I can apply this to the way that I work in the world. And it does create a really powerful sort of magnetic capacity to receive the things that I put out there.
Yeah, absolutely it does. So that's amazing. So really the power of mindset and working on that. First of all, you of course experienced it for your own personal health and well-being, and but then like you said, you put it into practice with your business. And tell me about a bit about that. Like, what difference did that make with your business, or what do you do around like working on your mindset, abundance mindset, all of those pieces, and what kind of influences does that has have you noticed that that has had on your business?
So, what's happening for me the more I work on this mindset of prosperity and abundance is that I'm actually not finding myself marketing and advertising as much, but the people who really need to work with me, the people who can really benefit from my courses, from my healing circles, are coming to me. And it's because I'm setting these realistic goals. And every day I'm taking, 5 minutes at the end of the day to reflect on, okay, what were my big three goals for today? How did I live into those, and how does that how does that inform my tomorrow, right? And that keeps kind of the abundance and the prosperity coming my way, because I also sort of wrap that evening goal setting into then a gratitude practice as well. Just, listing three things that I'm grateful for from the day. And it really could be anything. And what I notice is that I then, doing this at the very end of the day, I sleep better and I wake up with all this clarity about what I'm going to be up to for the day. And my clients and my students pick up on that clarity and I think feel really supported by that container. And what happens is that my business continues to grow and grow by referral, right? Because through my own clarity and through my own mindset, I'm able to be there and show up more for my clients and my students. And then they're the ones who are saying, you need to talk with Lisa. I truly believe that this personal mindset, even though it might seem like, oh, this isn't worth my time and I'm tired and, I want to focus on something else or just distract, relax, it ultimately has huge rewards and makes life easier because, as I said, I'm not hustling anymore. And yes, I have a social media presence and I don't stress about it. I enjoy
Mm.
it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I mean, I absolutely agree. So because it's such a we think that we have to just do all the things, right? We have to just push push push, keep on going with the next tactic, the next strategy. But what you've discovered in such a beautiful way is that if you can sort of really sink into the energy of it so that and take care of yourself first and foremost so that you can actually show up at your highest self, then that is going to help your clients achieve their highest self and goals and all of that. And then referrals are so, so beautiful for building a business. I mean, it is just word of mouth referrals, all of that kind of thing is just such a powerful marketing technique. And you don't have to do any extra things over and above just being you, right? Like you just take care of you. You show up as the best and most powerful coach that you can be, make an enormous difference for your clients. And it's all just going to have a butterfly effect from there, right? So I love that really just discovered that and that you are living that yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that mindset, and, essentially being my own coach and then showing up with clarity and also vulnerability and
Mm.
sharing my story is an incredibly powerful business building tool as well. Because again, as I was saying before, we're also unique and that's needed, right?
Hmm.
Because for certain people, my story really resonates and not for others. And that's great. I don't need to be working with those people. There's somebody else. And that's why I also love making referrals,
Mm.
and maybe
Hmm.
having an initial conversation with somebody and saying, if this doesn't sound like it's a fit, then connect with this other person. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and that just keeps on going around and we all support each other that way too. I love that. Yeah, and I agree entirely about the power of your story, your unique story, which actually reminds me, I would like to get back to your amazing grandmother who got you guys up at 4 a.m. That what an amazing and 18 cousins. I think that you have published a book, right? I'm hoping that some of those stories are in your book. Are they?
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
is so amazing. Tell well, why don't you just tell me a little bit about your book actually, because it's if it's got some of those stories and like going out getting the mushrooms because the mushrooms are awoken now at 4 a.m. I love that a lot. So tell me about your book.
Absolutely. So it's called The Flavor of Health, and it has been self published because I've wanted to share it as a gift for clients and also as a framework for people to start thinking about health and food as medicine and their own ancestral eating and how that's truly the path to wellness. And it's going to be coming out in an expanded edition, which is really exciting. And I'll be
Yay,
able to I know. I'll be able to include more of those stories. And I think, it's so important for us, even if we are not so recent immigrants, if we're third or fourth generation, to, as much as possible, go back to our roots and bring those stories back into our lives because often they do have to do with food, right? Because, before the advent of industrialized food and even after, like in my family, so many people, sometimes because of income, sometimes because of preference, were working with a lot of homegrown food from scratch. And those stories, those recipes, the oral tradition, so much of what we know about family gets passed through food. And that's some of the beauty of food, not just as, fuel, but as an emotional experience, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm completely on board with that and I love everything that you're saying. And the thing is, I just want to circle back to what you were saying too about how your story is going to really resonate with people. Like for me, I love everything that you're saying. That totally resonates. And then for other people, they might be kind of like, not so much. Which, like you said, is totally fine. And this is a message that I want everybody to really internalize: is that your own personal take on things, your fingerprint and the way that you approach things is what is going to make, I mean, that's what's unique about you. And that even if you're talking about timeless topics that, we it's so easy to go into this whole spinning out on thinking, oh, there are so many other people talking about health and wellness out there, like what do I have to bring to the table? But what you have to bring to the table is the thing that only you can bring to the table. Only your particular combination of experiences, beliefs, all of your life's wisdom that you bring in and your training and like whatever it is, but your own unique cocktail is what you bring to the table. And it's so important to let that come to the table because there are people who are looking for exactly that. And so not to hold yourself back from, wading into the marketplace because you think that it's all been said and done, because it most definitely has not all been said and done. But Lisa, I just absolutely love like all of those pieces about your ancestral food and whereabouts did you where was this magical sounding upbringing that happened in Italy? I'd love to know more about that.
My family's from the Dolomites,
Mm.
which are a fossilized coral reef that was pushed up when the African tectonic plate made the Alps. So we're just kind of at the foothills of the Alps. Trentino Alto Adige, where I'm from, pre World War One, was part of the Habsburg Empire, so modern day Austria. And we remain one of the five independent provinces of Italy, which is an interesting thing about Italian politics that I won't get into. But what it allows us to do is have our land be sort of in one big land trust. So there's not a lot of commercial development going on. And that means there is a lot of farming happening. And the woods are intact because tourism is a real thing, right? And people come to hike and ski and, go from hut to hut in the Dolomites, which is an incredible experience. So It's such a beautiful part of the world. I miss it every day.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Do you get to go back there?
I do. Normally, we go back once a year. That hasn't happened for the past 2 years. And we're hoping to go back in the fall. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds just so amazing. And I just love that you've been able to bring all those, you're a wonderful storyteller, and to bring all of those pieces into the work that you do right now to help people. It's just such a beautiful thing that you're doing. So I love everything that you're describing. I'm curious actually, since we did mention the pandemic, how did the pandemic affect your business? I'm always curious about that. With those of us in the health and wellness space, how that influenced things.
So for me, it was a huge boon to my business. I'd say my business tripled by June of 2020. And I think, folks were home and really thinking about the need to be healthy, right? On a deeper level than maybe ever before. And I think a lot of folks too were thinking, I don't know how to cook, or I don't know what to eat
Right.
anymore, because they had, certain food preparers, restaurants that they were relying on. And it's been so beautiful to watch how there is, with everything, a silver lining, and how this focus on health that is such a passion for me in my life seems to have been taken up by more and more people. And just this shift in consciousness from treating illness to maintaining health and vibrancy. That's been so exciting for me to witness. And I feel really fortunate that at a time when a lot of people have really struggled, this field, at least in my experience, has done really well because of people shifting their own mindsets about their health. And it was wonderful that that's how it happened, because my husband was laid off.
Mm,
And it actually allowed me to work on my business full time and not be spending, half of my time taking care of our home and homestead, taking care of our kids. And I will say that I have worked full time in the past, and just like I no longer hustle, I no longer do that, right? I work from 9 to 3. Those are my hours. And that is allowing me to be with my kids every morning, play with them every afternoon, cook dinner together, because that is also a huge one of my values. And for my big three goals that I set every day, one of them is always non work related. And I make
mm.
that promise to myself. That one of my goals has to be about me, about my family, about the earth, and that's what keeps me going for sure. So that's the long answer to your
Yeah.
question.
No, that's so good though. And I love that. I mean, certainly I have heard this from many others, is that their businesses really did take off in a big way because of the pandemic. And like you said, it's a silver lining. It has been a horrendous experience in many ways. But if there is a benefit that came out of it, certainly, I mean, how quickly did our health and well-being suddenly jump right up to our number one priority? And a lot of people really answered that call, I think, by reaching out to people like you, by really investing and showing up in a way that they had maybe been kind of like, let's just push that to the back burner, but now it's really in the forefront. And so that's why I have long felt that, for throughout this whole time, really, is that it's such a beautiful time to be in the health and wellness space, or getting into the health and wellness space, wherever you are on your journey, because it's this enormous global shifting event is going to have ripple effects for quite some time. That we've been noticing for a while. You've noticed it in your business, and I know that it's going to continue for quite a while. So it is a beautiful thing to be positioned to help people who are looking and needing that help to really shift their lives. So I love that you've been able to do that. And I love that you've got those personal goals too. Like that's just so perfect, because why are we creating this business, like doing this like thing of creating business for ourselves, if it's not to, make our life and our lifestyles the way that we would really want it to be?
That's right. Absolutely. And, our one of our big family goals is travel.
Mm.
And that's always been such a gift of being self-employed and being able to work from anywhere. And now we truly have that freedom as a family. And it allows us to have these experiences that continue to be enriching and continue to allow me to develop my story and the stories that I share too, right? Because our story isn't just about our past and what we've
Hmm.
experienced, but it's about our future selves and what we're looking to create, and then the unfolding of that. And I love that about being in this profession as well, because the story is always unfolding as we're willing to shape it. And I think having new experiences and also exposing myself to different kinds of people who are mentors, who are colleagues, who are already at the place where I want to be, those are the kinds of mindsets too that helped me get to this place of financial freedom, is saying, who's out there that I love and respect and follow, and how can I be in proximity to them? Um, and through that proximity, develop my own greatness and, enrich my own story to share with others.
Yeah, I agree. I'm completely the same. It's not we think that it's going to be some kind of arrival when we reach a certain point and everything that we've wanted has been achieved. Okay, done, good there. But it's just an ongoing evolution, and being able to embrace that and always be looking for, where is my next teacher and my next role model, and to continue to evolve. I think that's what you're describing, and I think that's the way to live. Absolutely, I agree completely. I believe that you've got some what you consider to be prosperity practices, right? Like mindset or prosperity practices. I'd love to just, as we're kind of getting ready to wrap up, do you have some, nuggets for people who are looking to get started and they know that they need to work on this stuff, but not totally sure where to start? So, what are some of your favorite prosperity practices?
Absolutely. I love that question. And I think, first and foremost, look at your upbringing, look at your conditioning, look at how your caregivers framed wealth for you, and unpack that for yourself. I think that's a huge piece of really getting out of our own way and allowing the abundance to flow. And one of the practices that I started with back in the day, that I still say to myself kind of as an affirmation every night as part of my goal setting, is money is flowing in whether I am working or not, whether I am awake or asleep. Money is flowing in. And by repeating that to myself, I think that, it's not as though I'm weaving a magical spell. It's just this reminder that that's true. And I always laugh to myself because um, my business is somewhat international, because I do speak 6 languages and I am trained as a translator, which is a different
Wow.
story.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so I do work with clients, who are in Spain or in Indonesia or France. Anyways, I laugh to myself because often I'll go to bed and I'll wake up and, I'll go to my desk and there are, 5 sales, right, for somebody who purchased my course or signed up for one of my circles. And it's just this reminder that it's true. The money is flowing in, whether I'm working or not, whether I'm awake or asleep, the money is flowing in.
I love that you shared that, and I mean, it's it that that's wonderful, and I know that for it becomes a bit of a cliche, like, oh, making money while you sleep, right? And we think, oh, I know that many people dismiss that, and they're like, oh no, that's impossible. It really is possible. And I love that you just shared that story of exactly how that actually came to be. And it's possible for all of us, right? So, yeah, that's so fantastic. Um, Okay, very cool. So, this has just been such a beautiful conversation, Lisa. I could keep talking to you, and I would love to hear so many of your stories. I'm definitely going to need to get your book. Because I really want to immerse myself in, in all of your wisdom. I want to hear all your details about where people can connect with you, all of that. But before we do that, just any final words of wisdom, like just one or two final takeaways to give our audience in terms of how to get started working with doing this work, working on their prosperity consciousness.
Absolutely. I think create an affirmation for yourself. Take something like the one I shared. If that one sounds hokey or weird to you, create your own and repeat it to yourself. It might be before you go to bed, it might kind of pop up here and there. You might write it on a card and have it at your desk or on your fridge. And then let the inspiration of that affirmation come through. It's like, okay, if the money's flowing in while I'm sleeping, why don't I connect with a colleague who lives in Australia and have some kind of a teaching partnership? And then when people are awake in Australia and I'm sleeping, the money will be flowing in. So create your affirmation and then allow those practical applications in those moments of flow when you're on a walk or on a hike or doing your workout. Let that come in, because that's what the affirmation does, is it opens the doorway to those aha moments of practical application.
Perfect. That's the perfect note to end on. Like I said, though, tell us where can we all go to learn more about you, your work, get your book, connect with you, all of the good things.
So, the name of my business is Harmonized Cookery, which just was one of those inspired moments. As I said, I have to call my business this complicated thing. Um, but I'm helping people to harmonize, and that's what resonates with me. So, harmonizedcookery.com is my website, and that's my Insta handle and my Twitter, and that's where I am on Facebook too. So, look for me in all the places.
Perfect. That's so great. Okay, definitely everyone needs to go and check out Harmonized Cookery. We're going to put the link in the description, the show notes too, so that people can easily find you and connect with you. Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing all your wonderful stories and all of your wisdom and all of these, really practical, tangible ideas also, with us, because it's just been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.
Aw, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Well, I hope that you found that conversation inspiring. Lisa has built such a beautiful business for herself, and I want you to know that the same thing is absolutely possible for you. As you heard her say, one of the key secrets to her success was her focus on prosperity consciousness. And I think that that is an excellent place to start on your journey to building a thriving business. Now, if you would love to get started working on that, but you're just not sure how to do it, a great place to start is with my Money Mindset Makeover Workbook. This is a free guide that I put together, and it walks you through the steps needed to elevate your money mindset so that you can pave the way to more abundance and wealth in your business and life. You can download it for free by just following the link in the description box or the show notes, whether you are listening to the podcast or watching on video. Okay, so that is the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I will see you again next week.